So good morning and welcome to Yin Yoga. Let's take that comfortable seat that we know so well. You usually see me take my glasses off because I can drop in a little bit more when my glasses aren't on my face. Let the shoulders sit on your back body, opening the front body. Turn your palms open. You can touch your thumb and your first finger together if you like. Take a nice deep breath through the nostrils, and as you exhale, let the body settle. Letting go of the doing, and take a moment to be. Noticing if the abdomen is relaxed, if the breath is fluid and deep. The mind starting to drop in and soften. Today, as we work with the kidney and the bladder meridians, these are the energetic channels that give us energy, help us to balance our energy in this time of transition of spring and almost the end of April. We look to feel healthy, vibrant energy without feeling a little bit too amped up. That sensation that coffee can give you, or a little bit too much stimulation. This is more subtle, deep, and nurturing, actually. And today's focus, no effort, no trying, just be. Allow the hands to come together at the heart. Holding in any intention of why you're here this morning, what you need. If you say it in your own words to yourself, you can say it internally or out loud. Your body will hear you. And you'll have a more profound experience. Take a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, letting go of the hand, softly open the eyes. And let's release and come back. Okay. I have a funny story. I started teaching yin class in person in the group that I teach here. They had never done it before with me. And I had my phone. And I didn't say, I'm actually timing you. And one of the participants went, why do you have your phone in your hand? She was actually kind of annoyed, and it made me laugh. I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. This is what I'm doing. It's too funny. All right. So we're going to start seated. We're going to start right away in what they call the most essential kidney bladder meridian pose, and that's butterfly. So we're going to start there. I've got a book that I'm reading from and looking at. So if you see me doing that, I'm not paying attention. And then oops, I don't have it with me. If you like to sit up on a blanket, I can use this one. Especially because it's our first pose, you might want to sit up on the edge of the blanket so that it can help you tip forward. Now, one of the things that I do in class often, but we want to start with this today, is kidney point 1 is this area right at the base of your foot. Can you see? Right kind of in between your big toe and your second toe ball joint. It's a soft little indentation. Everybody's is a little bit different. I want you to press with your thumbs into each side and do it fairly strongly. And I want you to notice if it's tender. If it's tender, that usually can mean it's a block. There's a blockage going on and you want to stimulate it. So go ahead and massage this around, kind of push and release, or maybe make circles. Stimulating this end point. This would be like if you went to acupuncture and they put a needle in this spot. Have you ever had that done? That gets us started right away. And then let's take a moment just to release that. And remember, the feet are not close to you. Send them out in front of you a little bit. And if you have bolsters or blocks, you can use them here. The simplest way to do butterfly is just to come forward. Don't worry about props. But a lot of people like to use them if they have them. So my favorite way is to put my bolster right down on my feet and against my inner thighs and rest on my forearms. You can also put your head in your hands. The more you wiggle your arms forward, the more you're going to feel this through the back of your body. If you don't have a bolster, but you have blocks, you can always stack them. Create like a little tower for your head. Let your arms relax. So finding what works for you. Remember, you come to the edge of sensation. The sensation is a place where you can be, but it might even be slightly uncomfortable. It's never pain. And if you have those specific areas in your body where it can be really sticky, I like to call it, maybe even an injury, you don't want to feel sensation only there, because then that's going to tweak that injury area even more. Back it up just a little bit so you feel it more in the whole body. In this case, we're working on from the foot to the inner leg all the way up. This also addresses the outer leg, the outer back, the kidneys and bladder themselves. The channel goes right through these two organs, which is why they're called what they're called. It goes up around your face and brain. These two meridians are considered the foundation when we're working for what they call yin and yang balance, or that feminine masculine balance. And as I said, in the centering, these two meridians are storehouses for vital energy. And they actually need to stay balanced for all the other organs to function well. So even if you only did 1 or 2 bladder and kidney meridian poses each day, it could help balance your whole system. And in Chinese medicine, but also in physical medicine, kidneys and bladder work together. Yeah, the kidneys are the filter, and the bladder is the bladder that holds the filtered liquid and expresses it out through the body. So you can just imagine if these two things are blocked, there's too much heat in them, you can imagine what kind of issues you would have. The one that comes to mind right away for me is like a urinary tract infection. And as I said in the centering, try to allow this practice to not have any efforting or judgment or doing. You're just being, experiencing each and every moment. Take a nice deep breath. And then go ahead and release, slowly coming up. If you've got props around you, please move them away. Support your legs as you bring them into the center line and stretch your legs down. Maybe rotate your ankles or flex and point your feet. So this next pose, this next shape can be challenging. I'm going to give you the option of Sphinx pose as a possible challenge or change, not challenge, but change. So in Yin, they call this saddle pose. And I'm going to show you with my bolster. So you know Sphinx pose, right? And I want to show you a little variation of something if your body will do it, and it might not. It might not. We'll see. So you see what I'm doing? I'm propping myself up with a bolster. You don't have to do this, but it will help. And then you're going to sit on the end of it. You could just lay back and let yourself be in a back bend here. You could do that. The thing I'm going to show you is what they call half saddle. I'm going to take my foot and wrap it around so that it's by my hip and my leg is in this deep flexion. And then I'm going to lay down. And we're going to do one set at a time because this is way easier than doing both sides at the same time. So either half saddle, the way I am right now, laying back on something so that your shoulders and your chest and your body can be in a baby back bend. All right. You can do this with blocks. You can do this with many blankets. If none of that's going to work for you, put your legs down straight and just be in an open back bend. Yeah. Try not to prop yourself up too much to like make it really comfy. Make it a little bit edgy. Remember, tension against tissues on purpose. So bending that foot backward like that and leaning back opens up the whole front line here. It's quite strong. So if you feel like, oh, my body's not going to do that, just go with the straight leg or just come into Sphinx pose. We need to get into a back bend of some kind. Okay. Trying to see where you guys are. So I'm going to call it halfway through. So if you are in one side, like I showed you, you're going to switch your legs. Otherwise, you're just going to stay quiet. So if you're in a neutral position where both legs are doing the same thing, just stay where you are. Remember, this is a hard one, so no doing, no efforting, no trying. Put yourself in a position where you feel tension in your body. You feel sensation. And it's not pain, but it's also not nothing either. There's this, I don't know, I've tapped into it so many times, I can almost feel the energy moving in my body. And I can feel when it's stuck. And I'm reading a lot right now around energy within our body and how we eat, live, feel, affects our energy around us, not only internally, but outward. All right, that's a halfway mark here. So if you need to switch, do it now. So remember, halfway is only if your legs are doing something different. You want to go on the other side. And you're breathing. Yeah, I mentioned this last week that the question always is, you know, what do we focus on, our energy body or our physical body? And I believe that the answer is both and. It's not either or, it's both and, which is what Yin Yoga does. It helps us with both. And when our energy is flowing well in our body, we're usually doing something like eating really well and getting good sleep and watching or being with people that make us laugh, or, we're having these higher vibrational states of happiness, joy, love, expansion, empathy, all those kinds of things that we know. When we are in another situation where maybe we're upset about something, or we're afraid about something, or we feel bad about something, those are what they call lower vibrational energies. And a lot of times they have a negative impact on our physical body. And they're starting to really look at this medicine now, this energetic medicine, as a way to help us understand how we can support our physical body. So you can do all the things, this is what they say, you can do all the things perfectly. You can take your supplements, you can go for your walk, but if you have this other state of being that you're in more than you're not, you won't be well. You won't feel well, and you won't be well. I don't know about you, but that gives me a lot of hope, because we have choices. Take a nice deep breath. And then go ahead and slowly bring yourself up out of there. If your legs were bent back like that, take them out in front of you and stretch them out in front of you, because that was a huge action for the front of your legs. Most of us don't sit like that for any length of time. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's just not okay to have pain, especially shooting pain. So did any of you do Sphinx pose? Raise your hand if you did Sphinx pose. Okay, then we'll move on. Okay. So taking a moment to come up to sitting, if you haven't done so already, move your props away for a second. And we're going to do open straddle. So taking your legs, and again, you can sit on your blanket if that feels better to you. And take your legs as wide apart as you can. You want to feel something happening on the inner side of your legs. If you start to feel like you're falling over backwards, I want you to sit up on a blanket. You want to be able to shift your body forward. Toes stay up, but don't stay rigid around holding them there. Just notice that if they fall in or fall out. Try to make a conscious effort to keep them more in a neutral position. And then go ahead and start to lean forward. And again, you can use your blocks or your bolster. You could even do the same thing if you have a bolster, tipping it upward and then resting like you did in butterfly. You might choose not to use a bolster. It depends on your practice and how you're feeling, what you need. Sometimes I don't like to use bolsters. I just want to be in it without anything. Take a moment here just to settle in. Find your edge of tension. And breathe. Remember, closing your eyes can help you go inward. So most of the poses, if not all of the poses in Yin, they have a physical quality, like what are we actually addressing in the physical body? And then they have an energetic quality. They have emotional qualities. And they have mental qualities. So the physical qualities are obvious to me anyway, and I talked about them a little bit already. The energy, it says the kidneys are the storage containers for our essence energy. Their energetic health rules the general health of the lower back, the reproductive organs, the urinary tract system, the lower intestinal tract, and all fluid systems in the body, including the joint lubrication. And so if these areas, I talk about lymphatic flow a lot, if these lymph glands are congested and the area of the energetic marma points, which are where I call them meridians, highways of energy, and then they crisscross and they're an actual what they call marma point in yoga. They can get congested, and then you end up with dis-ease in that particular location. So if you think about fluid and how that would manage your fluid systems, think about how much water we are. The heat of fire, if we don't have this cooling quality of the yin kidney meridian channel functioning properly, it weakens the kidneys and breaks down that energetic balance. Take a nice deep breath here. And then slowly, slowly starting to come up. Moving any props away from you. So carefully bring your legs back to center. Give them a little wiggle or a little rub. We're going to go into one of my favorite twists. Seated. You can use props or not. I don't like to sit on anything in this one because it kind of gets in the way. But you're going to take your legs in this open bent knee position, and I'll turn so you can see. I'm going to drop my knees over to the left. And if your legs are wide apart, you're going to open up the whole inner and outer groin. If your legs are closer together, it's a little bit less of a tug. And then take your right arm around behind you and start to twist your body away from this back leg. You can stay up on your hands, or you can come down on your forearms. You could even lay on a block or a bolster all the way down. That's certainly not my favorite way because it pulls on my back too much, but you might like it. So put yourself in a position that you can manage without effort, without doing, without trying. Just be. Let's allow. And you might even consider, when I was talking about the poses or the shapes having a bunch of qualities, like physical qualities, mental qualities, emotional qualities, you might do a little scan for yourself, like physically, how are you doing? Are you overheated? Like this is a really good practice for me because I'm Pitic and I can get overheated really easily. So this is very cooling to the system. It's like, you know, in my world, my husband loves hot, spicy food, and I'm always countering it with yogurt and cucumbers and things like that, so I can stay cool. And how are you feeling? What's the state of your emotions? Are you feeling gratitude for being on the mat and happiness for doing something that's really wonderful for you? Or is there some judgment or some shame or some irritation that's coming up? Just notice. And I don't like to use the words let it go, let that go, or push it away, because our emotions are important to recognize, feel, and almost like once you can recognize and feel it, it dissipates. Like, have you ever had that experience where you're a little bit irritated and you don't really know why, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm really upset about this thing and I feel very sad. You might even notice you want to cry. But once you go through that emotion, it's dissipated. It just releases itself out into the energy. Go ahead and take a deep breath. And then pushing yourself up away from the floor, taking your back leg and bringing it around so you can stretch your legs out in front of you. I'm going to come back to some kind of neutral state. And from here, you might feel like you want to fold forward, or you might want to lean back a little. You might want to do a little movement just to release anything that's present. And then we'll start on the other side. So I like to lean back on my hands to give myself some space. Let your knees, if you did the opposite side, let your knees go to the right as I am. Take your left arm around and twist yourself so you're resting on your right outer thigh and hip. And then decide, am I going to stay up or am I going to come down? Both of those are strong sensations for me. And when I ask you to not have any effort or doing or trying, another word that I could come up with would be no judgment. Once we can stay in an attentive and non-judgment place, we have an experience of one that's open rather than one that's struggling. We move into the poses in and out and stay with them with care. When your kidneys are out of balance, your emotional state can move towards fear. Mental qualities of any particular meridian, especially kidney and bladder. It's associated with memory, willpower, and ambition. Personal empowerment can be affected if this particular meridians are not open. Studies at the National Institute of Health have determined that when we have a negative thought and don't challenge it, meaning don't ask yourself, is it true? Our minds believe it and our brains react. This causes a whole psychosomatic spiral that can lead to despair, anguish, and ill health. So what we think, what we believe, what we say to ourselves, really powerful. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly, slowly starting to bring yourself up away from your mat. Come into a neutral position with your legs out in front of you. Taking a moment here. Alrighty. The next one we're going to do is forward. So they call this caterpillar. This is my most unfavorite pose of all of them because my body doesn't like to go forward. It's really risky for my lower back. So I'm doing a lot of prop setup, right? So I might sit up on a blanket, could be the first thing. The second thing I might do that could be a help for you is to take another blanket or something else underneath your knees. So this is a little high for me, but it also works. And then you're just going to fold forward over your own legs. So the legs are straight out in front of you now instead of out to the side. Your hands can rest on your body somewhere or off to the side. You could bend your elbows and rest your head. Resting here now. Taking a moment to settle. You remember, in poses that can be challenging, you want to find that sweet spot where there's tension against the tissues, but there's no pain. And if it starts to dissipate, then you move deeper. You'll find that in this shape, your body will just naturally fall forward with gravity as it releases. So not only are we talking today a lot about the actual energetic channels of the kidney and the bladder, remember that Yin Yoga and connective tissue is very closely related to the lymphatic system. So physically, there's like this flow that's going on. Flow of energy, flow of lymphatic fluid, maybe flow of a mental state, so you don't feel stuck. And a good way to gauge your own mental state is to notice how often you laugh, how often you feel happy and joy, because the ancient sages, the Buddha and the masters that have taught us over the years, the highest state of vibration, they say, aside from transcendental, states, is joy and happiness. Not because somebody made you that way, made you laugh, or you watched a funny show. Those are all great, but because it's your natural state of being. You look more at your life around you and the people around you in this, loving, joyful state. It can be hard, especially in our culture. And yogis talk a lot about loving kindness towards ourselves, and then of course towards others. Our practice is a time for revitalizing our depleted energy channels. No need to force, strain, rush, fix, or struggle in any way. I like the idea of having an attitude of relaxed, compassionate attention. Take a deep breath. And then slowly allow yourself to come upward, away from your legs. Take whatever is around you away. And we're going to end up lying down on our backs. So once you lie down on your back, just take a moment with your knees bent and maybe your knees touching each other with your feet apart, active rest, active constructive rest, and sort of just pause here for a moment. And we just take a second to transition, let the body adapt. Breathing into the belly. All right, from here, we're going to go into a lying down twist. So I want you to bring your feet closer together.
Pick your hips up and bring them over to the left side of your mat. Now the easy transition is just to let your knees drift over to the right. What I always like to tell people is that if that feels hard or you have a lower back, especially SI joint issue, you're going to use your bolster or your blocks to bring the floor up to you. Take your left arm away from your body. Now, if you've got a little bit more mobility, you can always bring your knees over each other, like stack your knees on top of each other. Really notice that. And, or you could stretch your legs out. But you want to not struggle, remember. So if I stretch my legs out, my left shoulder just leaves the floor. So if I leave my knees bent, my left shoulder can descend. And I can feel good sensation. So I don't need to overdo it in order for it to be effective. Some people like to put the bolster or the block between their legs. That works too. We soften into the shape. No effort, no doing, no trying, no judgment. And then we just take the time to have that loving kindness, that compassionate awareness, being with. The other thing that a yin practice can do, because it is cooling in nature, it's energetically balancing in nature. It's said that when our system is in a cooler state, more yin-like state, we're more emotionally balanced and our organs are more balanced. As I said earlier, that heated state that we can get in, whether it's mental or physical, burn ourselves out, if you will, can really deplete our organ health. And in this case, we're talking about the kidneys and the bladder. It's a huge, huge consideration. Because if the kidneys aren't functioning very well, that can really lead to a lot of illness in the body, toxicity in the body. So just spending this time in yin practice, some type of nourishing yin practice, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, is going to be so healing. And as I told my group that I was teaching in person last week, it took me a while to warm up to yin, because I'm a mover and a shaker. I like to do a lot of movement and I like to make it hard. And it took me a long time for me to understand and feel the the juice of this practice, especially as we age. Take a nice deep breath. And then go ahead and settle yourself back up into a neutral position, unwinding the legs. Bring your hips back to the middle. Pause there before we do the other side. That other side, before we go to the other side, you could maybe, bring your knees to your chest or put your knees back in that constructive rest for a few breaths. And then when you feel ready, you can switch your side, bring your hips over to the now right. Let your legs and knees move over to the left. Use your prop if you need to. I'm not really rigid around the shoulders being all the way down, but they should feel some stability. When your body's hanging in space, it doesn't feel stable and it will tense. There'll be tension there. So just noticing your habits. This is a commonly done shape, and so you might go to that commonly done position. See if you can shift it just a little bit, creating something new, some kind of different experience in your body. And we find that stillness. And when our bodies are not moving, the mind can become calmer. Breathing into anything that's present. Remember to feel and acknowledge anything you feel and notice. Like, oh, my body feels tight. Take a deep breath. Oh, I'm worried about such and such. Take a deep breath. Take a nice deep breath. And then finding your way back into the center, lifting your legs, bringing your hips back in the middle, readjusting yourself here. I like to lift my hips up and put them down. I call it a reset, but you can do whatever you like. That can help you come back to some kind of neutral. And if you're in a yin pose and it can become challenging, when you come out of the yin pose, it can feel vulnerable on lots of levels. So just allow us nice slow transition. The next shape we're going to do is commonly called happy baby pose. Yin calls it stirrup pose. What I'd like you to try to see if you can get there is knees are open, feet are to the air. You can hold behind your knees and draw your knees towards your outer ribs, or you could try to hold your ankles, or if you can reach your outer feet. Try to put your feet towards the ceiling rather than dropping down. See if you can. Ankles, maybe even the backs of the knees. Stimulating a specific area in the body around the inner leg, inner groin. Moving on them. Inner side of the leg all the way to the foot. Remember that bubbling springs point, that kidney meridian point starts at that spot and it moves up the inner leg. So it's an interesting consideration if you've been on this journey of health, wellness, and you focus all your attention on all the things to do right, and you're still not really getting anywhere, or you feel stuck somehow. The next place to look would be the energy system. What's not flowing? what's not allowing the health of your physical body to be optimal. And it's these both and relationships. The saying always is, we are energetic beings that are in a container called a body. And I forget how many energetic lines and cross connections there are, but there's many, 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 hundreds and hundreds. And the energy moves inward from the external inward. It moves outward from the internal outward. It moves up and down. And it moves around us like a vortex. And so when we get into these states of blocked energy fields, lower vibrational emotional states, thinking patterns, we can feel dense and heavy and kind of stuck and sick, honestly. Take a nice deep breath. And then letting your hands release and your legs come back, feet on the floor. Taking that moment to transition. The last shape we're going to put ourselves in is legs up the wall pose. And if you don't have a wall, maybe you might have a chair. If you don't have a chair, use your bolster or your props. I want your legs higher than your hips. And your choice could be anything. So if I'm doing it in my own room here, I have a wall right behind me. I can absolutely use that. But I also have bolsters and blocks here that I can put my legs on if I like. Chairs work really well. One of my favorite places to do supine meditation or any kind of supine resting is I have a little poof cushion out that I actually sit on, and I put my legs on it. It's just a nice height. So don't worry too much about how high it is or how perfect it is. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Just get your legs higher than your hips. And we've talked about this pose before, it has so much juice to it. Which is why it feels so good. We take a moment to just really make it wonderful. This is the last pose before Shavasana. And if you can just imagine when your legs are up above your heart, above your hips, it allows for all of your systems to kind of relax. Don't have to work so hard. And it creates this juice that moves down towards the central organs in the body, the heart, the throat, and the mind, the brain. And so we rest here without judgment, without doing, without effort. I like to think of, when I think of those three things, I like to think of me getting out of my own way. You could even use the analogy of watching your body breathe, because you aren't breathing. You are actually the awareness. You are not breathing. Your body is breathing. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you feel ready, I want you to slide your legs off of whatever you're on and move into Shavasana. So your Shavasana might be right where you were. If your legs aren't all the way up on the wall, maybe they're up on a bolster and you feel really happy, just stay there. Make sure you cover yourself if you're in a cooler environment. And as we always do in Shavasana, once you get yourself settled, you feel like you're ready and you take that moment of stillness, take that deep breath and let that exhale, let everything go. There's nothing to do, just be. Take a nice deep breath. And slowly starting to wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretching your arms and legs. Bringing yourself back to your body and the space around you. As you feel ready, please bend your knees and roll to a side, pausing there before coming up to sitting. Once you're seated, hands come to your heart center.
Holding so much gratitude for our experiences together and our time on the mat. And gratitude for our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.